Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. If you're feeling overwhelmed with all the news on Aadhaar today, here are the top 5 outcomes in very simple language. Here I go. The first one is that Aadhaar-based authentication has been made mandatory for all government welfare schemes. So your fertilizer subsidy, your LPG subsidy, all the benefits that are funded from the Consolidated Fund of India will require Aadhaar identification. But for situations where a biometric authentication fails, the Supreme Court has directed the government to come up with regulations that will permit an alternate identity proof. So we'll have to wait to see what the government frames on this front. Also for state benefits or welfare schemes that are directed at children, Aadhaar can be used only after their parents or the guardian consent to it. And if for some reason an Aadhaar identity proof or card cannot be produced, other means of identification must be allowed. And once the child turns 18, he or she must have an option or must be given an option to opt out of Aadhaar. That's the first key outcome. The second key outcome is the impact on private entities that was using, Aadhaar for authentication purposes so far. So your banks, your mobile SIMs need not be linked to Aadhaar anymore. And they can't mandatorily ask you to use or produce your Aadhaar for KYC purposes or any other purposes in the private entity space, but Aadhaar will be mandatory to file your income tax returns. The third and fourth important outcome have to do with the redressal mechanisms that the Supreme Court's majority view has given to individuals. So far, the Aadhaar Act allowed the UIDAI to disclose an individual's information in certain cases based on an order of a district judge or a higher judicial authority. So far, the individuals whose information was sought to be disclosed wasn't given an opportunity to be heard. The Supreme Court has struck down this provision and read principles of natural justice in the Act to say that if an individual's information is sought to be disclosed, that individual should get an opportunity to be heard. The fourth important, redress on the point of redressal mechanism has to do with who can initiate a criminal complaint when there is a data breach or a data leak in respect of the Aadhaar information. So far, only the regulator, which is the UIDAI, could initiate such a criminal complaint. Now the individual, the aggrieved individual, will be able to initiate a criminal complaint before a court if his or her data is breached or leaked, or there are any offense committed against the individual that are mentioned in the Aadhaar Act. The final outcome has to do with the national security exception that has been, diluted or amended by the Supreme Court. What they've said is that if the UIDAI is called upon to disclose the information of an individual for national security reasons, so far, an officer at the level of Joint Secretary could pass such an order and call the UIDAI to disclose the information. The Supreme Court has said that such an order must, be passed after a judicial review, and the joint secretary level person cannot pass such an order. So these are the top 5 implications of the majority view of the Supreme Court. But for the fine print on more, stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.